Safe to say Miss Makima has a thing for me. If the two of us work together, will we eventually get together? And then if we get together, we can do that stuff together. I want it! I want to do that stuff so bad!
Why do you fight? Why do you keep holding on to life? Have you ever stopped to reflect on these questions? Well, 'cause I did. And that's why I'm here, to tell the story of two characters. Two characters I hold very dear in my heart. Both of who keeps fighting, yet tragically, for the wrong ideal. Denji and Shinji aren't heroes in the usual sense. They fight, obey, and endure pain. Not for glory, not for power, not even for themselves, but for one desperate human need: to be needed. Every choice they make, every sacrifice they endure, every moment of fear, doubt, or suffering is driven by this hunger to be relied on, to be wanted, feel indispensable. This is what makes them feel alive in a world that otherwise seems to ignore them. And yet, this doesn't just shape their action, it defines their very existence. It pushes them into impossible situations, forces them to bear unbearable burdens, and sometimes makes them lose themselves entirely. It drives their relationship, warps their decisions, and colors every interaction with a fragile mix of hope and fear. The invisible force that drives them forward, the shadow that follows them, and the quiet voice inside that whisper, "You matter, but you matter only if someone needs you." Most people want to be loved, respected, or appreciated, and that's totally fine. But there's something deeper than that: the need to be needed. It's not an official diagnosis, but psychology has studied the behavior behind it for decades. It connects to ideas from Maslow's hierarchies of needs, where humans crave belonging and esteem after basic survival is met. It's also tied to what's called the self-determination theory, which says we all rely on three basic needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. But when that third one, relatedness, gets broken or never fully formed, people start to build their self-worth around others depending on them. Studies on codependency and approval seeking show how this happens. People who grow up without stable affection or recognition often learn that being useful or self-sacrificing is the only way to keep love around. One 2018 study from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people with high dependency traits tend to feel anxiety and guilt when they can't meet others' expectations, because their sense of identity relies on that external validation. Another study published in Frontiers in Psychology linked this to emotional neglect, showing how unmet attachment needs can turn into a pattern of pleasing, rescuing, or overgiving to maintain connection. So, when we say the need to be needed, we're talking about a psychological condition where a person's value of self depends on how much they are relied on, wanted, or seen as essential. It's not about kindness or empathy, it's about survival of the ego. It's the belief that if no one needs you, then you stop mattering. And that's exactly what makes characters like Denji and Shinji so tragic. Their stories are often mistaken as nothing more than some relatable depressed kid that keeps on fighting, but careful not to forget the other half of it. Their situations are especially about a desperate search for meaning, and to achieve that, they focus all of themselves into usefulness. They are blinded by all the pain and trauma, and therefore they see that as the only way out of their condition, ignorant of the fact that this habit will only ease momentarily their burden. However, over time they will, sooner or later, face the consequence. And trust me, we will as well in this video, and I bet you will be surprised, in the bad sense, by how complex and profound it'll get. As we dig further into the matter, we will find out how it originates, how it grows into its victim, and, for the scary part, how it shapes every part of them. Every journey begins somewhere, but for some, that beginning is marked by emptiness. A childhood without consistent care, without recognition or warmth, leaves impressions that stretch far beyond memory. In that void, a mind can start to form a quiet rule. If no one loves you for who you are, then you must somehow earn it. Survival, tension, affection. All of these human needs become tied to usefulness, and usefulness itself becomes the only way to exist. Denji's early life was a testament to this cruel logic. Left alone, impoverished, and unwanted, he learned quickly that he could not rely on anyone to care for him unconditionally. Giving a worth performance was now a currency, and the only way to buy that feeling. Every task, every act of obedience, every self-sacrifice became more than survival. It became a statement of presence, a fragile proof that he mattered at all. Being needed was the only measure of his existence, and he clung to it, even when it cost him comfort, safety, or his own sense of self. The world demanded utility, and Denji learned to meet it, no matter the price. Shinji's story is quieter, less visible, but no less profound. Abandoned emotionally by his father and carrying the impossible weight of expectation, he discovered that he had to perform to survive, not just physically, but emotionally. Piloting the Eva was not a choice, it was a necessity, the only way to feel seen. Each mission became proof of relevance, each act of compliance a signal that he had value. Recognition and safety were inseparable, intertwined with every heartbeat of fear and doubt. This background, full of neglect, absence, and unfulfilled needs, do more than leave scars. They can plant a seed of anger, one that grows silently over time. This anger shapes choices, determines loyalties, and sets limits on who they can be. It can make them obedient, selfless, or endlessly striving, but it can also bind them to suffering, making them vulnerable to manipulation, disappointment, and failure. From these beginnings rise a force that will define their lives, relationships, and the way they face the impossible. It is the current beneath their action, the quiet fire that propels them forward, the invisible way they carry into every decision, every fight, every interaction. And while it begins in childhood, its echoes follow them into adulthood, coloring every connection, every bond, every moment where they seek to matter. It is this spark, born of absence and need, that transforms survival into obsession and shapes the very way these characters engage with the world around them. Well, we have identified the cause, and to cite a French masterpiece, so far so good. But how you fall doesn't matter, it's all about how you land. And well, when it comes to this type of fall, the landing is never pleasing. As the need to be needed grows, it doesn't remain a quiet ache. It becomes the foundation of how a person lives, how they see themselves, and how they connect to others. It starts small, almost invisible. A glance of approval, a word of praise, a moment of recognition. Those feel like sunlight after years in the dark. It feels good, almost healing. But when that's the only light you've ever known, you begin to chase it. You learn to earn affection through effort, and before long, it's no longer something you seek, it's something you depend on. The more these needs grow, the more it shapes your identity. You start to define yourself by what you can give, by the ways that you can make yourself useful. You stop asking what you want and start asking what others need. Every relationship becomes a performance. Every act of kindness an unconscious transaction. You offer parts of yourself hoping to be noticed, to be valued, finally feel irreplaceable. And when that feeling fades, you give more, because that's the only way you've learned to exist. Denji embodies this cycle perfectly. His entire childhood taught him that his worth only existed to what he could do for others. Kill devils, obey orders, give up comfort, give up autonomy, just to be told he's doing well, that he belongs. When Makima enters his life, she becomes the personification of that twisted equation. She doesn't need to threaten him, doesn't need chains or fear, only kindness, attention, and the illusion of care. She studies his hunger and feeds it in measured doses. A word of affection, a touch, a smile, and then she will follow her anywhere. Not because he is weak, but because she offers what the world always denied him, the chance to be wanted.
Currently, I'm into Denji type boys.
Denji type? Dude, that's me?
Shinji's story unfolds under the same law. His father's rejection planted the idea that love must be earned through obedience. Every time he pilots the Eva, every time he suffers, it's with the hope that maybe this time he'll be seen. The cockpit becomes his stage, his confession booth, his prison. He bleeds and breaks for recognition that never comes, mistaking pain for purpose and silence for approval. He's told that he's saving humanity, but what he's really saving is that fragile sense of being needed by someone, or anyone really. This is how the need grows, matures, adapts, hides behind noble words like loyalty, selflessness, or love. It disguises dependency as devotion, and the cruelest part? The world rewards it. Society romanticizes self-sacrifice, praises those who give until there's nothing left. We applaud the characters like Shinji and Denji without realizing they're not heroes, they're survivors. Survivors trapped in cycles of validation. The more they give, the more they're taken from, and yet they keep going, because stopping will mean facing the emptiness that started it all. The moment someone ties their worth to your validation, you own them. That's how abusers, manipulators, or even institutions exploit this hunger. They dangle belonging like a reward, and the desperate come running. And while it's easy to see this from the outside, the truth is uncomfortable. Because in smaller ways, we do it too. We sacrifice, we bend, we exhaust ourselves to maintain the illusion that we matter. We stay in draining jobs, one-sided friendship, toxic relationship, all because the fear of not being needed feels worse than the pain of being used. That's the real tragedy of this need. It builds a cage that looks like purpose, a chain that feels like love. It convinces us that being irreplaceable is the same as being loved, and that usefulness is the only proof of worth. This hunger doesn't vanish, it evolves, following us as we grow, shaping the way we connect, the way we work, the way we live. Like Denji and Shinji, we risk becoming prisoners of our own desire to be seen, mistaking control for care and comfort for love. In the end, the need to be needed isn't just a weakness. It's a reflection of something deeply human. It's born from loneliness, nurtured by rejection, and carried by the quiet fear that without purpose we disappear. Shinji and Denji embody that fear in different forms, yet their pain feels universal. They fight, obey, and sacrifice, not because they're strong, but because they're terrified of being forgotten. But the truth is, the world often rewards this kind of suffering. We celebrate those who give everything, who lose themselves for others, who keep moving even when no one asks them to. We mistake their endurance for strength, their obedience for virtue. Yet behind that strength lies something fragile. A desperate hope that one day, being useful will finally feel like being loved. And that's where the tragedy lies. Because love built on usefulness can't last. The moment you stop giving, the moment you falter, it all collapses. You're left empty, wondering on who you are without someone to need you. But maybe the real act of courage isn't to keep fighting for others, it's to stop fighting for approval. To realize that you can exist without earning your place, that your value isn't measured by what you give, but by the fact that you exist at all. Denji and Shinji may never fully find that peace, but through their stories we're forced to confront our own reflection. How much of what we do comes from love, and how much comes from fear? Maybe in the end the goal isn't to be needed. Maybe it's to learn that we already are, by ourselves, in our quietest moment, even when no one else is watching.